New videos every day.
This is part 2 of breastfeeding, talking about the benefits of breastfeeding for the mom, for the environment, and just benefits in general. So today we're going to talk about the top 10 benefits that we didn't talk about in the first video, which were the top 10 benefits for the baby. But first I want to give you some statistics, because although women may breastfeed in the hospital and then right after they leave and they have this new infant and they're breastfeeding, that's great. But what's startling is that, yes, 70% of mothers are breastfeeding while they're in the hospital, but the number drops to 33% after 6 months, which is the recommendation for a full 6 months exclusively breastfeeding. And the number gets even scarier, because then it drops to 17% after 1 year. And 1 year, in my opinion, is really the goal that mothers should be shooting for. And so although women start off pretty good in the hospital setting, over time it just gets really easy to transition the baby to solid food and forget about the benefits that breastfeeding has. So that's why we're going to reinforce it today. So one of the best benefits in general for women is after we are pregnant, after we have babies, we want to lose that baby fat. We want to lose that weight. And one of the ways to do that is through breastfeeding. You burn more calories while you're breastfeeding. It also helps to decrease your uterus size, which is obviously expanded when you're pregnant. And so the hormone process that goes on while you're breastfeeding helps to reduce that down. And then it also helps to minimize bleeding after you've had delivery with the baby. Breastfeeding also helps to delay the ovulation and menstruation after you've had your baby. Nothing could be more frustrating as if you had just had your baby and then immediately start ovulating and then you get pregnant again, unless that was your goal, intended goal. But there is research out there that show that if you get pregnant immediately after having a child, it actually isn't as healthy as if you waited a little bit longer to have your second child. So just the fact that breastfeeding delays that process, it's showing you that nature is really taking care of things in itself. Breastfeeding helps to reduce the risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer in the breastfeeding mother. So in our day and age, when breastfeeding is not as popular as it should be and breast cancer is on the rise, this is one great way to reduce that risk. Breastfeeding helps save you money. Not only is it the most natural, healthiest way to deliver nutrients to your infant, but you don't have to pay for formula, and that can be expensive. And with formula, and we talked about this in the other video, your infant is more susceptible to infection and disease and recurrent illness, which is, of course, going to increase your healthcare costs. You're going to have to go to the doctor more often. So in a lot of different avenues, breastfeeding is going to help save you money. And of course, the most obvious benefit for breastfeeding is that the mother is able to develop a close, intimate relationship with the infant. They are able to bond, they spend time together, whereas if you are giving formula to your infant, they're feeding from a bottle, you don't necessarily have that same connection with that baby. You're able to spend that devoted time with them, and they look to you as their source of resources for what they need. Breastfeeding does help to reduce your child's risk for tooth decay and for choking. So if you put your baby to bed with a bottle at night, which is something that you should actually never do, and the reason why that is because it really increases their risk of tooth decay, and it really increases their risk for choking. It's a choking hazard for them to sleep with a bottle in their mouth. So avoid that as much as possible. And as breastfeeding a child, then of course you eliminate that risk. One of the benefits for society in general is that if everyone breastfed, then we would decrease our total health care costs. Mothers would have to take their infants to the to healthcare less often. There wouldn't be as much missed work for doctor's appointments. There wouldn't be as much hospitalizations for illnesses that could have been prevented. Just overall, we can save our society money in healthcare costs. A study recently found that mothers who breastfed missed work less often and were more productive while they were at work. And I've actually heard people say, oh, well, it's less convenient to breastfeed and it's harder, to be a working parent. But actually, there's a lot of regulations in place now where if you are a breastfeeding mother, then there are opportunities for you to take breaks to either breastfeed your infant if the daycare is close by, or to pump your breast if you're trying to store milk for the infant for later. So there's opportunities for you to continue that, and I don't want you to think that it's not convenient or it's not going to allow you to work. And then, of course, for the environment, if we are breastfeeding our children, there is more waste, plastic and trash waste, because we're not having to go through bottles, we're not having to buy canisters of formula. There's just less waste in general because we're delivering nutrients to our child the natural way without having to use products that are made and can harm our environment. And you can breastfeed your child even if you're sick, even if you have a cold, if you have diarrhea. A lot of the common illnesses, you can still breastfeed your child without risk of passing on that bacteria or that infection or that sickness to your infant. So don't stop breastfeeding just because you're sick. Of course, if it's a severe illness, you want to get that checked out through your doctor. But most common illnesses, and colds and flu and even diarrhea, those will not transfer. So you're safe to continue breastfeeding. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that you breastfeed your child 6 months exclusively. That's the minimum. And then they say that you can breastfeed up to a year in what they call breastfeeding support, so in combination with other foods that you've introduced into their diet. And my professional opinion and personal opinion as well is that you breastfeed as close to 12 months as possible. And it doesn't have to be exclusive for the entire 12 months, but 12 to 15 months, if you're in that range, you are really providing your child with the best nutrition. You're giving them the best benefit of all the antibodies. You're delivering the immune benefits to them through the breast milk. They overall will have lower rates of obesity. We even talked about on the other video that your children can have higher IQs. There's just so many benefits, and certainly it makes sense to breastfeed if possible. So the video's coming up. I'm going to do one on Japan, and the reason why we're highlighting Japan is because they only have a 3% obesity rate. Well, in America, it's 32%. So in other words, America is 10 times fatter than Japan. So what's their secret? So that's what we're going to find out. And then the other video we're going to talk about is the truth about alcohol. What does research really say about how it affects your body? Thank you for subscribing. Thanks to everyone who's been watching these videos. Thank you for leaving your comments. I love reading what you write. And I especially want to thank those of you who rate the video. Most people don't, but it really helps us determine how you like the videos, the feedback that we're getting, so that we know how we're doing. So thank you for doing that, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. There are over 350 videos on our channel, and I doubt you've seen them all. And the topics range from weight loss, nutrition, sexual health, all the way to psychology and mind control, and anywhere in between. And I think if you check them out, you're going to find some really interesting stuff.